Well, she sneaks around the world from India to Carolina. She's a sticky-fingered filcher from Berlin down to Belize. Take me for a ride on a slow boat to China. Tell me where in the world is
Nanne?
Well, we're edging closer to a temperature that our next guest might be comfortable enough with to actually return to the great state of Minnesota, but we ain't there yet. We got a long way to go. Louie joins us via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. What's the Lou Nanne threshold as a rule when you can control it? I know occasionally you have to get back for business or something, but when you can control it, what's your minimum temperature that you're interested in I guess, accepting when you come back here? Is it 70? Is it 58? Is it 65? What is it?
60, 65, yeah.
Okay, all right. At least you're honest about it. 60 or 65. Okay. I'll accept that. That's not bad. Questions for Louie, Bradshaw and Bryant, KFAN text line 64686. Are you in Florida now?
I'm in Orlando right now.
Orlando.
I have a conference here at the Four Seasons, and it's absolutely spectacular. It's about 78. It's just terrific.
That sounds very, very nice. That's for sure. Four Seasons, you say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just took the train up this morning.
How's that work?
2 hours and 5 minutes nonstop from West Palm, 125 miles an hour. It's perfect.
So is it a smooth ride? Can you feel, do you sense the speed or what's it like inside the bullet train?
I have to tell you, it's spectacular. I've ridden the one in China and in Tokyo, and I think it got up to 228 or 268, I can't remember, miles an hour, and you didn't even know you were moving. But at 125, you don't know you're moving either. It's called a bright line. They've had it now, I think it's 3 years, and that's why I don't drive around eastern Florida at all. Every Thursday, I take it from here down to Lauderdale, and then Friday, I take it from Lauderdale to West Palm, and then Sunday, I do the same thing back. Rather than fight that traffic,
makes sense.
Really clean, beautiful, good service. It's just like the trains in Europe, where if they say you're leaving at 2:28, they leave at 2:28.
Wow.
In Europe, when you go catch a train, most of those places, especially in like Switzerland, for instance, and if they say 3:15, you better be there on the train at 3:15 because then it goes.
Do you I assume you're in a sleeper car?
Not here. I don't need a sleeper car.
I thought for you, though, you like luxury, so I figured,
Oh, yeah. When I took it from Vancouver to Banff, or I've taken it from Poland right through Czechoslovakia, Austria, Switzerland, right to the French Riviera, through Italy. Yeah, I've taken a number of them across there, sleeper trains. They're beautiful.
That sounds pretty good. Yeah, those things are, they seem to function pretty efficiently, too, right?
Oh, yeah. If you want a great trip and inexpensive compared to some of the other things you can do, you take the one from Vancouver to Banff.
Yeah.
I say that because the scenery is spectacular. You're paying 33% less for your ticket because the Canadian dollar is much cheaper. And the service is exquisite. And the dining car and through the Canadian Rockies are really beautiful. They are more beautiful than the U.S. Rockies. And you got a place where you go into a mountain straight ahead and you make a right turn. Actually, it's a left turn at a 90-degree angle, and you're 100 feet above. So you're coming out with the engine, and you look down below at the caboose, and it's a different angle, 100 feet below. It's crazy.
Man, that is crazy. That's got to be beautiful. 651 guy with a question for you. Any good John Mayasich stories from Louie? Just finished Immigrant Routes to Olympic Gold by a local writer about his life, 66 years since he won Olympic gold with the USA at Squaw Valley.
Well, I just, John is such a quiet guy and easygoing, a tremendous talent, but you'd never know he even played a sport. And I had the good fortune of playing with him in Russia and in Ukraine. Then it was still Russia when we played in Kiev. But he's just a wonderful personality that just took the game and played it so easily, like he was in his backyard, and he had an extremely gifted player, and just had fun playing the game. That's all he wanted to do.
Does Louie cheer for the U.S. or Canada at the Olympics?
No question about who I'm cheering for. I'm cheering for the U.S. all the time, and I sat and watched that women's game for quite a bit today, and the U.S. Women beat the Canadians 5-0,
yep.
And I was thrilled to see it. The Canadian team's got 5 gold medals to the U.S. too, but I think the times have changed.
They have.
When you look at what they've just dominated them in the 4 pregame, cross Canada United States games, and right now they look really good. They look really good. I just hope they don't get complacent when they finally meet in the medal round. And they did. I mean, they played so well today. It was impressive to see.
It was, yeah. They'll obviously meet again in the medal round, but it hasn't even really been competitive for a while between these two programs.
No, not the. Essentially, the last year and a half, U.S. has been a lot better.
Yeah,
and so I'm feeling good about the women. I really want the men to win. The fact remains that I when I didn't sign with Chicago and decided I wasn't going to go to camp unless they met my terms of getting, which they did, but getting me the contract first, I asked for a tryout in the Canadian Olympic team in the fall of '64, and Father Bauer, who I was going to go to play for in Toronto, but the Blackhawks wouldn't let me play anywhere except for St. Catharines. That's why I had to go to Minnesota. And he didn't even, I called for a tryout. He said, I got my team picked. I said, it's only September. And by the way, Father, I did play against all those guys. And, I did win all the awards there were in college against these guys.
Yes.
And I know I can play with them. And he said, Louie, I'm going to go with the team. Well, then 4 years later, when the U.S. was putting a bill through Congress, and I was going to get instant citizenship, which I did, but it didn't get done by the '67 tournament in Vienna. And he calls me from Vienna. He says, Louie, I got good news for you. I said, who is this? He says, Father Bauer. I said, what is it? He said, just go to the airport. There's a ticket in your name. You're flying here. You're going to start the World Championships with us in Canada, because I played him 10 times that year. And he says, I've already talked to Pillsbury. We got you a job for Pillsbury. We're going to move your family to Winnipeg. I said, Father, you know who you're talking to? He said, sure. What are you talking about? I said, you wouldn't give me a tryout 4 years. Now you got me moving my family. You got me working for Pillsbury, and you got me in the Canadian Olympic team. He said, yeah, it's all set. I said, I'm never playing for you, and I hung up on him.
Wow.
And the funny part was, so the first game against the Czechs in the Olympics, I hadn't talked to them basically man to man since then, and I hit their leading scorer, and I put them out of the tournament. And the next day I'm watching practice, watching the Russians. He's there. He comes down and sits beside me. He says, well, you wouldn't play for us, but you did us a favor. We got the Czechs next, and you put out their best player.
What'd you do, cheap shot him?
Yeah, well, listen to this. So he was, he was still living. I don't know, it's got to be about 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
And he was writing a book. And the author called me with him and said that, Lou, I got the notes Father Bauer had in here. He didn't give you a tryout in September of '64 because you had a baby girl, then you had a wife, and you didn't want to move your family. I said, that's a line. If you print that, I'm suing you. I said, he just wouldn't give me a tryout. I said,
wow.
So you better not print it. So he didn't.
So did you check that he took you up on it? He did not end up lying in the piece?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't see anywhere where it came out after that.
That's amazing. No, I meant the shot to knock the player out. Was it a cheap shot or was it a good hit?
Oh no, I hit him really good.
It's a good hit. Okay, I just want to be sure. Yeah, it's something cheap.
You're not going to take a chance of getting a major.
That's true.
In the Olympics.
In the Olympics, that's a really good point. Canada, USA, Canada women's hockey. Canada leads the all-time series 106-86-1 Team USA has now won the last 7 encounters, and the recently completed rivalry series swept all 4 of those games, combined score 24-7. So it has turned, as you said, it's definitely turned in a different direction.
And the thing is, if you look at the Canadian team, they're older than the U.S. team, more experienced, but the U.S. got, I want to say, at least 7 new players who have really performed well during this tournament. And it was so much fun watching them today, the way they moved the puck, how they played. I got a little antsy a couple times when they made a couple hooper passes in their own zone. But outside of that, I mean, everybody makes mistakes, but I didn't want any mistake because I don't want the shutout broke. And
right.
And I don't want, to see the Canadian team get any life against them. And it was just dominating. It was just terrific. All I could think of is don't get cocky when you play them in the finals. Just finish it off. They're a wonderful-looking team. And by the way, the Minnesota girls, Abby Murphy made a couple of passes for goals that were just terrific. And her and Heisey are on the line together with the girl that's got about 4 goals now and really setting her up quite a bit. It's been really fun to watch. And of course, the Wisconsin team's got so many good ones.
Yeah.
4 of them from Wisconsin scored goals that, Mark Johnson has done such a marvelous job with that team. It's just amazing. He just keeps winning all the time.
Does anybody else, are there any other countries that matter when it comes to international, ice hockey, women's hockey, Olympic hockey, etc.?
Not yet, except they matter, but they're not a factor.
Mm-hmm.
And Sweden and Finland are getting better. I mean, Italy even scored an upset here, and France is getting better. I mean, the other countries had so much room for improvement. You expected it to happen while it's happening. And so if you look at the college teams now, and you look at both, even the Canadian and U.S. team, they got the girls are all playing in college. And the colleges now have players from all over the world, and more every year. So it's really good to see how the game's developed for women across the world, because it's growing by leaps and bounds. And not only the number of kids, but the talent level, how it's getting better and better. And I mean, this one girl made a pass along the boards on the near side, and I said, "What are you doing?" And it was a great pass. Oh my God! I didn't think you could do that. It's fun to watch.
Pretty good, yeah. And so they'll meet. I think. Well, obviously they'll meet in the medal round. This was just the prelim action, and it will be interesting to see.
They'll meet the gold medal game.
Yeah, that's.
I don't see either of those teams getting upset. No.
So in the last, I'm looking it up again just to be sure here. You may actually know this off the top of your head. So when it comes to Olympic competition, right, between these two programs, 2022,
5-2.
The Beijing games, Canada won 3-2. The U.S. won in a shootout 3-2 in the Pyeongchang games in 2018. Canada won 3-2 overtime in 2014 during the Sochi games. Does that sound right?
Yep. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And now, like you said,
the U.S. in one of those games, they won, 3-2. Canada scored late in the second period.
Right.
It was a big mistake, and then the U.S. made, and then they had lost it overtime. It just, they're so close, but Canada does have, I think it's a 5-2 edge in gold medals right now. And if you look at, since they've been playing the gold medal game, only once in all those years have Canada and U.S. not been in the finals.
Let's get to a couple texts that have come in for Luigi, brought to you by Kemp's, as always. Louie, is there a chance that the Wild will acquire Sid Crosby this season?
None, 0, zip. And I don't mean 100%. If you can go over 100%, which you can't, that's what it would be.
Yeah. So don't people should not get.
By the way, Pittsburgh looks like they're going to make it.
Yeah.
So Pittsburgh's not going to be giving anybody a chance. Plus, I can't see Sid even wanting to leave when his team's got a chance.
Mm-hmm.
And you gotta feel that he's going to be in that organization when he's done. And probably going to be done soon. You know, you look at his age. Not that he couldn't play another 5 years or something because of his head, but the guys that are the best don't want to play when they can't be at a level they were at. They don't want to be remembered for something that they're not. And so I don't see him playing more than 2 years, if it's even more than one. I think he's going to go off in the sunset. He's going to have an unbelievable career. He's going to have records like you can't believe. He's already got Pittsburgh's records where he's passed Lemieux and a lot of stuff. So I don't know why he'd want to leave. He doesn't seem like the guy that would ever do that.
Handicap for me, just give me your general scouting report and overview regarding the men's Olympic hockey, the tournament.
Well, I'd say Canada 52% chance to win, U.S. 48% to win. And then it's going to be either Sweden or Finland. And right now, I'd lean towards Sweden, even with Brodin out, because they got a little more depth, I think, than Finland. And but that's being that Gustafson's going to have to play really well. But I think that Gustafson, is going to play as well or better than Finn's goaltender. At least I hope he does. So I'd say right now it's that little 3-4% edge you got to give to Canada. And I still think it could be determined by the goaltending. If the U.S., the U.S. is deeper in goals, goaltenders across the board in the U.S. than Canada. Canada's, if you look at position by position and say where's Canada strongest, where's they're the weakest, they're the weakest in goaltending. Not just in this team. I'm talking about the players, Canadian goaltenders per se in the NHL versus U.S. goaltenders. U.S. has got a stronger tandem of goaltending than the Canadians. But Binnington came up with that outstanding performance when he won the Four Nations. He did the same thing when St. Louis won the Stanley Cup. And it was funny, Eric Escala emailed me today and asked what I thought about the talked about deal of Robert Thomas coming from St. Louis to the Wild for Wallstead, Hartman in the first round. And I'm thinking that if St. Louis is going to make that deal, they have to be thinking they're going to trade Binnington because Binnington's about 32 years old, and you're not going to want two goaltenders, Binnington and Wallstead. So you have to be confident in Wallstead and think that they can get a ton of assets for Binnington.
What we didn't talk about, speaking of Ode to a Dead Guy, and I think it's almost been about a month, and speaking of goaltenders, Glenn Hall passed away. The goalie, I grew up watching him a decent amount of the time. You got a good Glenn Hall memory or story? One of the great goaltenders, Hall of Famer, 3-time Vezina Trophy winner.
Well, here's a guy who's played over 500 games in a row. No other goaltender has done this before. 502
consecutive games, all without a mask.
Exactly.
It boggles the mind. Yeah. And
the story is, by the way, he gets so nervous before the game, he threw up before every game.
Yeah, one of those guys. I've never heard of.
But he's really a laid-back guy, easygoing guy, and in those days, camps were longer than that, and if you called him and tried and get him to camp early, he'd always say he was painting his barn. That barn has to be the best painted barn in Alberta.
Yeah. Well, I've never, the whole concept, it's not the first time we've heard about a player throwing up before a game. It's almost part of the ritual. It always has fascinated me because my assumption always is when you throw up, it kind of takes something out of you and it dehydrates you and it weakens you. And yet we get these stories all the time of people who routinely, because of nerves or whatever the case may be, they throw up and then they feel better. Were you a guy who threw up much before a game?
I never threw up ever. I'll tell you who threw up that surprised me, and he's a guy you watched, and he was one of the real fan favorites in Chicago was Reggie Fleming because he fight all the time.
Yes, he did.
And Reggie essentially knew when he was going to fight, and he said, whenever I thought I was going to have a fight that night, I'd throw up before the game.
Cracks me up.
So he's another one of those. And then I said, well, who the hell got out of the way between Hall and Reggie running to the bathroom to throw up between the both of them?
They had the custodian had to be on extra duty, man, when it was game night. Is it also fair to say that before Hall, there were very few? I think, wasn't he the guy kind of credited with inventing the so-called butterfly style, where he would get down much lower than sort of stand-up goaltending that kind of carried the day before he came along?
No, I'd say Tony Esposito was the one who really brought it.
Okay.
There. The Hall was the same era that Sawchuk, who I think is one of the best ever, and Plant and Broda and those guys, Sugar Jim Henry. They used to stand up a lot more, and I asked Freddie, the goaltender coach from the Wild, why do your guys go down sometimes so much when the guys are on the angle when there's nothing to shoot at?
Right.
He says because they still think they're going to get beat on between the legs or on a low shot. So they go down to protect that. They think that's where more goals will be scored. Well, they're goaltenders, so they know more than I do. But I still like to see them just take away any angle that they got to shoot at, stand tall and protect all that. But Tony started floating down, but Tony, as I might have told you before, he would try any gimmick he could. And the one that they finally caught him with he used to sew a netting between his legs up by his groin area.
I don't remember that.
He went down, he still had a net. So if the puck came in there, it hit the net and bounced out, and he eventually made him, take it out.
Oh, that's too good. I don't remember that. Maybe you've told us that before. That's little netting down there, a little extra, extra protection.
He always was taking.
He had some angles,
trying something.
That's pretty good. Texter, this is from Al, wants to know where you would rank Quinn Hughes' skating ability among the greats that you have seen.
I don't think anybody has more agility than Quinn Hughes. I don't know if it's possible. The way I say he can lose people in the telephone booth, I mean that. I mean, his evasiveness is unquestioned as good as any I've ever seen because he does in such small, tight circles and so quickly. He not only is able to do those evasive moves, he does them at a high speed. And people can't react to that move, then repeat. And I've never seen anybody do it any better. I don't know if you could do it any better.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, that's a good way for people to understand it. Apparently, you got ripped on Beyond the Pond. Do you know about this?
No.
You got ripped on Beyond the Pond. I didn't hear it. So I'm admitting I'm just going with what the texters say. So here's what one of them writes. Would you ask Louie about, when he was a North Star GM, not letting Micheletti play in the Olympics and making him play in the AHL instead? It was discussed on Beyond the Pond this weekend. Did you deprive Micheletti of his Olympic dream?
Not that I know of. I don't know why I would, but if I did, then I did. I mean, I can't believe that because I can't remember which Olympics that was.
I think it was 88.
Coach and who asked me
I think it was 88, yeah.
I don't recall that happening, but maybe it did.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's just making up a story.
Well, apparently it's still with him, because I guess I don't know how it came up. Guardsy, were you listening? Did you hear about it?
No, I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
No.
I love the controversy, man. I had no idea. Well, you know Micheletti, man. He doesn't forget anything. He's like you. He never forgets.
No, that's good. Well, I wouldn't forget that either if I was him.
We'll have to get to the bottom of that story.
I mean, I probably, in those days, we didn't, I can't believe that that's true, because in those days, you have to remember, the guys didn't start playing in the Olympics till, I want to say, around 96.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, maybe it might have even been 2000. Before that, pros couldn't play in the Olympics. So how could he play in the Olympics? Because he played for me in the 70s.
Not me.
And pros weren't allowed to play in the Olympics.
Well, it wouldn't have been that far back.
No, it would have been in the 80s.
In the 80s, yeah.
Yeah,
The 80s, not the 70s.
Yeah, the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah. pros. You go back in the 80s, there's no pros playing there. If you earned $1 from playing professional hockey, you weren't eligible for the Olympics. That's why before, when I was going to play with the Olympics, and it was, the North Stars had their franchise 67, and they had training camp in Halliburton. They came back with 2 guys injured. They were opening the season at the Met. I'm practicing at South St. Paul. Murray Williamson's the coach. Ren Blair came in the back door. I was in the corner. We're doing some drills, and Ren said, Louie, and I turned around. They didn't even have glass, and you had sort of a screen, and he poked his head through the screen. He said, you got to play for us the first couple of games. I got 2 defensemen hurt. I'll give you $500 a game. And I said, well, sure. You got to get okay from the coach. Williams and Murray came over, and Murray said, what do you want? And Ren told me. And Murray said, you nuts. He says if he plays 1 second because he gets paid, he can never play in the Olympics. They got an argument. Murray said, I'll be right out. We'll take care of this outside.
Oh, my God. That's too good. I got one last question from the audience here. This is from a regular hockey listener, Dry Heat Guy, who wants to know how long you believe Ovechkin will play and your thoughts on Russia not being allowed in the hockey tournament. He alleges it's then not really the best on best hockey tournament. What do you think?
Well, I think Ovi, I would not be surprised if he retired after this year. If he doesn't, it's going to be maximum 1 more year. I'm really, disappointed that they didn't allow the Russians to play because they have Russian athletes in other events. They're coming under a neutral
right.
banner. Why don't they just let the hockey team do that? Because I feel like the listener. I like to see the best play the best. I would love to see the Russian team compete. I think that they would be very capable of getting a medal. I don't think that their overall team would be as good as the Canadians or U.S., but it's close. And I say that because the Russians got the best goaltending. They'd have the best goaltending, and they have as good a forward group probably as anybody, but I think that their defense, you don't have enough defensemen of the caliber it would take to win the gold.
One last item, actually, about the Olympics. A few people have texted concern about injury for Wild players and also what the layoff is going to do in terms of momentum. And I assume I can answer that question for you, that if you just can't, how do you fret about that? You just have to hope for the best regarding injury. And the team, there's a lot of players in this tournament where you can never possibly know what it's going to do to the team coming back. But I think it's stuff hardly worth fretting over, right? Because how do you control it? Either thing.
Yeah, you can't fret over it. You can't control it. And I will tell you, there's going to be injuries, and I just hope it happens to Colorado and Dallas, not the Wild.
Yeah. Because
I think that any injury is going to be a serious injury, and I say that because the players playing there are the best players on your team. So it's going to be serious, and it always happens. If it doesn't happen this time, I'd be thoroughly surprised because it'll be the first time. And as far as momentum goes, I always worry about that because the Wild were playing so well, but so is Colorado. And Dallas, they're still going to end up in the top 3 in that division, and the only thing it could hurt the momentum is maybe their standings. I don't know if, well, it depends on McKinnon. If he gets hurt, then Colorado could fall out of first. Otherwise, I don't think there's any chance of anybody catching him for first in the division, and then it means that who's going to end up in second for home ice, either Minnesota or Dallas.
I think that's our first game back, by the way, is in Colorado against the Lanch. We got 2 games left against them, both there, the rest of the season, I think.
Well, the Wild have played pretty good in Colorado over the years, so it's not as concerning to me as much as just the fact that Colorado's so balanced, so deep, and I don't know, they just seem to be hitting on all cylinders, and it's all going to come down to how their goaltending plays, I think, because that to me could be the weakest position on that team. Even though they're playing good, I'm open for them to go back, regress to where I've seen them in the past.
I hope business goes well for you in Orlando tonight.
Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to a nice dinner.
Appreciate you. We'll talk soon.
Nice to talk to you.
Thanks, Lou.
Talk to you next week.
Indeed. Lou Nanne, brought to you by Kemp's on a number of controversial subjects, including the Micheletti thing. Now, somebody is writing that the controversy in '88 was about the World Championships, not the Olympics. I don't know what that distinction is, but maybe we eventually we'll try to get to the bottom of it. I mean, you hate to see, that in-house sort of fighting a little bit.
Right, family fighting.
I don't like that.
No.
Do you?
No, never.
I mean, you root for both of them.
You do.
Right? Micheletti and Louie. I mean, that's just the way it works. All right, we're a little
Can we blame Fallness for stirring it up?
That's the question. I'm very curious to find out how it came up.
And Blakemore. Blakemore likes to stir the pot, too.
He does. He
loves,
even more than Fallness.
Especially from this room where you're insulated.
Yes. All that is indeed true. Bottom of the hour break. Don't forget Alec Lewis to talk some football. Purple. A lot of quarterback speculation. He will join after the top 5 at 5.
Dan wants to give you a shot to win bonus bucks. It is our national cash contest, and the keyword for the 4 o'clock hour is friend. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword friend.
How about this little nugget? Do you remember an attorney named Joseph Thompson?
Yes. Yes, we've had him on the show.
Had him on the show.
Pretty important guy
US
around
attorney,
here.
And then I think his last title with the U.S. attorney was like the head of the number 2 job, whatever. He was a big shot.
Yeah.
He decides he is one of, I think, now 14 who've left the U.S. attorney's office, most of them in protest. Do you see how he has, shall we say, surfaced?
The next chapter? No.
The next chapter is, you can't make this up. He is going to defend Don Lemon in the case that has been brought against the former CNN reporter who made his way into the church and that then became a point of controversy and bitterness, et cetera, et cetera. So you go from U.S. Attorney's Office job, he's now raising his hand to defend Don Lemon in the government case against him. Can't make that up. No. Can you?
What a time.
It's remarkable is what it is. Absolutely remarkable. I was listening Saturday. Micheletti didn't seem upset at all, even with Fallness trying to stir things up.
Unbelievable, Kevin.
Hard to believe that would be the case.
Almost 40 years later, you can't let a sleeping dog lie.
I'm a basketball guy, but I'm struck by the amount of drama that swirls around the Wolves and the continued relative calm of the Wild. Never hear about internal disenchantment with the local hockey team. Maybe it's because I'm not paying attention to them, but still.
Oh, you missed the last decade.
Well, did we? Yeah, that's true. Although that goes back that was the Suter Parisi era you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on.
There was stuff. Again, that's what's weird. This isn't like dogs and cats living together, anarchy in the Wolves locker room by any stretch. By the way, historically, there was.
Yeah, you were there for that.
And there was a lot of dysfunction. But for now, this group does seem to have a lot less of that going on, or it's just hidden better. I mean, that's also sometimes the way we come to find out about it. Speaking of local bowl games, we're told actually that the Southwest Light Rail Bowl will be coming to Minnesota in 2042.
Okay, hold on. That's
2042.
really good.
That's from Tom in Savage.
That's really good.
Southwest Light Rail Bowl. We have to wait a while for it.
Easy to get to eventually.
Well,
maybe.
He actually threw in maybe. He said coming in 2042, maybe.
We're testing the tracks. I saw the Fox 9 story on that a few months ago. We're testing the tracks.
Jim Pete clearly loves the show, hopes his hero Finchie won't go. Without a mood, we're 1-0, Wolves in 5. I apologize to Flim Flam because I blew the line. Jim Pete clearly loves the show, hopes his hero Finchie won't go. Without a mood, we're 1-0. Wolves in 5. That's pretty good. Any of them that speak to content in the program, I think it's worthwhile. And if you missed it, we talked. Look, I mean, I really don't, believe it or not, want to turn these into feuds or anything like that. Like I'm trying to pick on any one individual. Because we played an exchange that you brought to my attention during the Wolves broadcast yesterday between Jim Peterson and who was on with him?
Alan Horton.
It was Horton. Yeah, it was Horton Day. And it was mainly Peterson, but then Horton kind of agreed that this notion that They're confused that there's such a lack of gratitude for what Chris Finch has done, and I find that preposterous because I think, as one of our texters said, you can do two things at once. You can have great belief and praise for and celebration of what Finchy has done here and still call some things right now into question. I don't think it has to be an either or, and I think in the best markets, and in fact, with the franchises who hold themselves to a high standard of excellence, it's almost what they come to expect. So I don't really think that now are there some people on X who are calling for Finch's head? Yes. There's some people who would have called for Red Auerbach's head.
That's the
Phil
thing.
Jackson's head.
Yes.
That's a false premise. It doesn't mean anything when it comes to what some of the pushback has been about the current state of the Minnesota Timberwolves and whether there might be some reason for a little bit of concern. All right, let's get caught up because we went long with Luigi. We'll come back into a couple of other items. I had a couple of good Olympic nuggets that maybe you weren't going to include in the top 5 at 5. So maybe we'll get to them next. I've got one A-section item I want to run by you. And then Alec Lewis to talk plenty of pro football, maybe some leftover Super Bowl stuff, but more importantly, where he thinks the Minnesota Vikings are headed on a number of significant fronts, including the quarterback position. A couple of interesting national theories being thrown out there that I'm having some difficulty accepting, but we'll discuss those things as well. Stay tuned. The text right now, there was someone who texted earlier urging me, if not demanding, at least urging me to savage any athlete, any U.S. Olympic athlete who has expressed any kind of anger or frustration with the current administration or how he's feeling about representing the country or whatever the case may be. I'll revert back to what has been the official bumper-to-bumper policy on that particular issue, regardless of who is running the country, for example, regardless of the era we're talking about, whether the president is a Democrat or is a Republican. I think most people are not honest about what really bugs them. Let me quote, are you familiar with the chess champion Kasparov?
Big Kasparov guy.
Huge. Who wouldn't be a big Kasparov guy? And he just wrote this within the last couple days about himself. He said, you're only told to stick to sports when you say something that those critics disagree with. I heard it from communists, from Putinists, and when I criticized Obama's Russia policy. Today, I hear stick to chess from MAGA, who would also censor U.S. athletes the way dictatorships do. I can't get that worked up over. Because again, if people are honest about it, and we've talked about this regarding Sharks and Jets over the last several months. When you get mad about what an athlete has to say and you think he should stick to the script more, or in this case, stick to sports, shut up and dribble, that sort of thing. What many people really mean is, if you're going to disagree with my position or offer a position I think is controversial politically, then shut up. I don't want to hear it. But if you agree with the sentiment that I think needs to be expressed at a time like this, then go for it. That's all we can do. And to be honest with you, I don't even think the comments have been that extraordinary. But I do think that we don't really live with any measure of consistency in that regard. We've seen that played out over and over so many times on so many sports landscapes, for sure. We got top 5 at 5 coming up. I want to get to one story. Let me see if I can find it here. This was in Star Tribune. I think it was a Roper story that he wrote over the weekend. And the story is basically well, I'll give you the lead. I'll give you the start of the story. Hennepin County's top law enforcement officer is publicly mulling over whether to agree to limited cooperation with Immigration and Customs Enforcement as a means to end the federal government's disastrous intrusion into the Twin Cities. And the reaction, he writes, from immigrant rights groups has been swift. It is bowing down. It's caving to these racist demands and racist rhetoric of the Trump administration, according to Erica Zarowski, co-founder of the Minnesota Immigrant Rights Action Committee. Now, I should add, since this story was written, in fact, I think today, Governor Walz has said that he has been basically told by Tom Homan that ICE could be out of here completely very soon.
I just saw that headline.
Right?
Yes.
I think I'd asked, the last time we had Lugar in studio, I said, might this be over by March 1? Well, if the governor, and he thought it might be, but if the governor's right, it sounds like it won't even be that long, right? Because what's the date today? Today's February 10.
Right.
Now, again, the proof will be in the pudding, but that's I think the comment from the governor. So I don't know whether any of that has to do with any of these negotiations that are going on. But I want to get to another part of the story. Sheriffs across the state, including Ramsey County, are grappling with how to respond. But the Hennepin County Jail in downtown Minneapolis is in some ways the center of the storm. It stopped cooperating with ICE several years ago with the exit of Sheriff Rich Stanek. Then, hold on a second. I'm missing an important part of this story. Where did it go? Sheriff DeWanna Witt. This is they're kind of framing it as this is her quandary. Witt, who is up for re-election in November, told news outlets this week that she is considering notifying ICE about the release of certain people it seeks, like those booked for violent crimes. She emphasized to reporters on Friday, Feb 6, that she'd been, quote, throwing out different ideas, end quote, and hasn't made any decisions. She has had 4 meetings with border czar Tom Homan, who is now leading the federal operation. Here's an interesting quote, I thought, from her. Quote, there seems to be this overwhelming thought that somebody is going to win all and go home. That's not going to happen. There has to be a give and take. There has to be room for some kind of negotiations. That quote stuck with me because it sounds very statesman-like by the sheriff. To me, it sounds like, again, in a real world in which, you give up nothing, you budge on nothing, you don't let the terrorists win. There's some people, and in fact quoted in this story, who are unhappy with that approach or her even throwing that out. Now, again, that was, I think, Friday. I don't know if it's been established where those negotiations have ended up with. For all I know, she's ultimately decided to not even go that far in her cooperation. I don't know if that's yet been established. But I will tell you, I think if you took a poll of most, even in the metro area, most citizens, I believe, despite what we've seen played out in the streets, that most people would not consider that unreasonable. And I know all the comebacks is, well, how do you, on the basis of the way they've gone about their business, how do you trust any of these arrests or any individuals that this administration or these ICE officials identify as bad guys that we have to go get? And then there's the other question of, well, there's, these are individuals who may have been charged with some things, but these cases haven't always been adjudicated. But you brought this up on Enough Said Friday night. I think sooner or later, I would argue, I don't think we're back to, we should be able to do 2 things at once. I believe we should be able to savage the policy, the corrosive, illegal policy that ICE has terrorized this community with, because that's quite frankly why we're in the position we're in. That's why we're here more than anything else. I think you can raise your hand and endorse that position and still endorse the logic and reasoning that this sheriff offered up regarding this particular situation, because what we were told on the front end was most people say go after the bad guys, just don't be as sweeping as you have been. So is that true or not true, right? So I find that quote from her, and I think it's sad that everything, the rhetoric has been elevated to such a place where in some parties she's being criticized for even going that far. She hadn't even made, on the basis of those quotes, a final judgment or pronouncement. But isn't that sort of, when you factor in a number of things, which is including the economic hit that we're taking in this town that has now been reported on pretty effectively, why is that such an unreasonable position?
I don't have the answer. Because you're right. I did bring it up on Friday. Like, there should be, when you say statesman, like it feels like there's no room for that anymore ever.
Right.
And that's why we get caught in these situations, I think.
There's no question.
We all know why this one began. I think that's pretty obvious.
There's no doubt.
I think we've been pretty frontal about that whole thing. Going back to December 1st, I think, when Operation Metro Surge started and the complete over-the-top nature of it, which we've talked about enough. But eventually now it's, okay, well, how do we end it? How do we move forward? Are there some things that each side can do to get this thing going where we can actually move forward from it? It shouldn't be, that kind of stuff shouldn't be off the table.
One last text before top of the hour and top 5 at 5. Dan, I know this wasn't really the subject matter today, but I just feel the need to say this as a strong conservative. I'm so exhausted by conservatives bringing up Bad Bunny, even as a Charlie Kirk fan. I thought that TPUSA's alternative concert with Kid Rock was cringe. Since when did the Super Bowl become 4th of July? I feel like conservatives are now being as extreme on things and trying to inject politics into things just as much as we accuse the left of doing, and it's beyond exhausting. It's just a football game, like I said, not the 4th of July. Everyone on both sides needs to settle down. Wishful thinking. It is one of the elements that we didn't cover yesterday and that people have talked about from time to time, and that actually there have actually historically have been some righties who said some of this phony patriotism gets a little too performative when it comes to the Super Bowl. Doesn't mean you have to feel guilty about being patriotic, but what is the line there exactly? And it is true that somewhere along the line, some people have decided, well, that's the statement that needs to come out of the Super Bowl. Why? I mean, who decided, who made exactly that determination? I'm not sure. A top 5 will include
you assigning the proper color for the Timberwolves mood ring last night.